Hello, welcome to the Thinking is Infinite podcast. Joe.
And this is John.
And
we are back, right, Joe?
Yep, we're back.
And it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to catch the audience up to what's been going on in your life, Joe. Because there's been some pretty big things that our listening audience may not know at this point. And today we're going to do things a little bit differently. This podcast is going to be a continuous stream, right? We're not going to be having broken up segments this time. So looking forward to a little bit of a change. So, Joe, what have you been up to this school year?
Quite a lot. I've been mainly B&B's been going pretty well.
Which is your broadcast?
One weather segment I've had. The broadcasting stuff's been going pretty well. But the main thing I was really focused on was drama. I was in a play and
not only in a play, Joe, you were one of the stars of the play.
Yeah.
Joe's very humble about it. He's like, yeah. But you were the play was called, go ahead, Joe.
She Kills Monsters.
She Kills Monsters. And, Joe, why don't you tell the audience very briefly, like an elevator pitch, what it was about?
It's pretty interesting. The main character is Tilly, and she has to contend with, her sister had died in a car crash, and Tilly has to kind of, Tilly dies. Agnes, her sister Agnes, kind of picks up her D&D game, and she wants to play it.
Which is Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. She wants to play it, and throughout the whole play, she learns about her sister. She kind of regrets how she treated her in a way,
But you know what? It sounds like it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's actually a very entertaining play. And Joe plays almost like a comedic, what is it called? An underlord or something?
Overlord, yeah.
A demon overlord that is actually very, very funny. And Joe, if you don't mind, when we post on Facebook this link to the site, can I also send you a clip that you can actually add onto there, a video clip?
Possibly. I don't really know how that would go.
Why? It's just you. It's basically it's your scene. It's Joe's scene in the show. I'm gonna do it. There's nothing wrong with it. We're not breaking any rules by doing it.
Okay.
But I think the listening audience would have a good kick out of that opening scene that you had, which I thought was hysterical.
I love that one.
And Joe's tell us about now in the play, right? Joe and his fellow actors and actresses, they did multiple fight scenes.
Yeah.
Right? And Joe, how is that?
It was quite a little bit of a challenge because a lot of the fights were you have to practice for a long time. 1 minute of stage choreography is 10 hours of practice. That's kind of what the goal is, to make it the best it can be. So it's kind of difficult doing stage choreography, but overall it was very fun. We got an actual stage combat instructor to actually teach us how to do these moves, and the other actors and actresses, they also did a really fantastic job with that, especially because their moves were more numerous and harder than mine. So
yeah, everyone had the fight scenes were excellent, as far as well acted. The play itself was really funny. The music was fantastic. It's set in what year?
1995.
1995. So you can imagine the music that was being played on there during the play.
It was all 90s.
It was all 90s music. And Joe, I think Joe has actually have a little more of appreciation for 90s music, huh, bud?
A little bit, yeah.
I know. Last time I talked to you, I said, "What
songs.
music you listen to nowadays?" You're like, "I'm listening to some older music now," and I'm like, "Good, excellent."
Yeah, I'm listening to some of the older songs. I do think that they have a certain style to them that's pretty pretty good. I think that a lot of the older songs from that time period all have this it's not quite as synchronized. It's more it kind of is, but it's kind of not in a way. And I think it
different generations have different styles of music.
Exactly.
And it it's what's popular. It's who are the biggest producers at that time or creating different types of music. So it really is very interesting. I love how you have gone back a little bit and listened to other musics and appreciated some of the older music. You don't have to love every one of the songs, but it's good to have an appreciation for some of the songs. And in this play, it was great. They had what? Mama Said Knock You Out.
Mama Said Knock You Out.
and Joe did a rap during one of the auditions, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I loved about that video is everyone jumping around while you were singing it and rapping LL Cool J with your fake weapon in your hand.
Yeah, those weapons were like so cool. We got like the fake weapons. We got to like actually like fight with them, and they were like so like the swords were actually kind of made of wood. So yeah,
yeah, it was an absolutely incredible experience especially from and this is where it gets a little sentimental on my end. I mean, Joe, how far you've come in your life. I got to actually see how much you've grown over the years and how you were able to take on a challenge that anyone is challenged by, starring in a play. The auditions, the practicing the lines, and let me tell you something, you and the entire cast nailed it. I didn't hear a mistake made. I saw some fumbles, but that happens on stage. Things break, things don't work right. But you guys did a fantastic job. I mean, the acting was incredible. And Joe, I can't even say it enough how proud I am of you and how amazing you did. You were funny, you had great timing, and I'm definitely posting that video of you because it showed so your timing in that one scene was just so fantastic. So it was just a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And anything else you want to talk about the play?
I did want to say that there were a lot of people involved in it. Like a lot of like the crews, they worked a lot. Like the two stage managers were really nice. They contributed a lot, and like I do think that it's kind of hard because you have to like match to what the directors like say, because the directors have like the final say so on how you should act your line. So even if maybe you think a different way, you still have to act kind of like what they kind of think,
right?
And it's kind of that's kind of a little bit difficult, but overall I think like the directors and I kind of had the same visions most of the time. So
well, you know what I liked about it, and here's one last thing I'll say about it, and then if you want to talk about it more, that's great, because I don't mind talking about this the whole podcast if you wanted to. But there was Joe's character was named Orcus, right? Orcus.
Yeah.
Now, I went on YouTube because when Joe first told me about I'm doing a play called She Kills Monsters, and I typed in Orcus, She Kills Monsters, and there's about 4 or 5 different videos of other people playing Orcus. Yeah. And I have to say, every one of them they were all good. You fit right in with all the other people that were playing Orcus. So between you and the director and how you both actually put it together and created your own Orcus, which was a little, I thought, funnier than some of the other people that were doing it. You inflected really well. Your pitch was really well on certain times. You just nailed it. And I give a lot of credit to the director and you for actually taking the lines and creating a funny demon of the underworld or whatever he was called.
Demon Overlord.
Demon Overlord.
Thanks.
And the other thing, Joe, and I'm going to brag, and I'm going to mention this because I want to brag on you, is that you did your SATs, right? What'd you get on the SATs?
1460.
1460. I was absolutely blown away by that too. So he blew me away, and I think you got your SAT score the day of the play, right?
Yeah.
So he not only
the first day.
You want to talk about a day that knocks a parent's socks off is when you get when you find out your son got a 1460 on his SATs, which is, I mean, I looked it up. It's like MIT Ivy League available. Like that's pretty much the score you have to get to those places. So I was just completely blown away by how well you did on it. And then to have you star in a play, and you did star. You were one of the stars of that play. It was just a phenomenal experience. So those are some of the things that's been going on, during the months that we were on hiatus, I guess, from the podcast, right, Joe? Anything else, Joe, you want to talk about?
Not really. Just the usual events, Halloween, etc., Thanksgiving, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, really not much. But I do want to mention something that has been coming up pretty recently, and it's the whole protests in China.
Yes, we're going to march into, and instead of the segments being segmented a little bit, we're going to roll right into the next thing. So, Joe, one of the things he wanted to talk about was the protests in China. So, Joe, why don't you lead off and talk to us about what you learned?
I did learn how they started. So, first of all, China, you have to go back to 2020, right? It's COVID. It's COVID time, and China said that, well, we beat the virus, it's fine, whatever. Then, a year later, they announced that everyone is going into lockdown. And these aren't like the lockdowns in the United States where you could still go out for essential stuff. You are locked in your house. You are literally welded in your house.
And
you are trapped in a prison.
That was disgusting. They actually welded a building.
Yeah,
right?
They weld people in, they don't let you out, and the government is supposed to deliver food to you, but they kind of skimp on that. They don't really care. And what ends up happening is a lot of these people end up getting really mad. They're angry because they've been locked in their house with no availability of food or anything really. And it goes on like this for around a year. With not only people being welded in, but you need a green QR code where people aren't being welded in anymore, but you need a green QR code to go anywhere, and the government can change your QR code to yellow or red whenever it wants. So if you decide to, say, I don't know, speak out against the government, they can change the red code, exactly. And they can ban you from going anywhere with police presence. So then, meanwhile, there is a building in Xinjiang, and a lot of these people are literally locked down. They're under lockdown. They can't go anywhere. And a fire breaks out across the building.
I was just about to say. I had seen that, but go ahead, Joe.
The fire breaks out, and all these people are trapped inside and literally have to burn alive.
Horrific.
And all the Chinese people, they had enough of this and decided to protest across the nation. It wasn't just Beijing and Shanghai, it was everywhere. From small cities, small towns, big cities, huge metropolises everywhere.
I pray for these protesters. I really do, because what has happened to that country, they called it the zero COVID policy.
Yeah.
And it's impossible, Joe. There is not a chance in this world that you can actually create a zero COVID
policy. Absolutely not.
Welding. I mean, you want to talk about disgusting. Welding people into their apartment complexes is probably one of the worst things. You might as well, and then the fire, it's of all things, and then a fire breaks out.
You can't escape.
This is the way you treat the people in your country. It is just absolutely disgusting. I think, our government should do a lot more talking about what's going on here. We're so quick to jump on any cause throughout this world and this country. We're constantly fighting each other over political beliefs when real horrible things are happening to human beings across the globe.
Exactly.
And it's just disgusting. We argue with each other about this and that and all these stupid little arguments we have here, yet there are people being welded into their apartment complexes in China to try to get zero COVID. I mean, Joe, it's horrible.
It's also a way to control people. Because
Absolutely.
It's just a convenient way to control people because the government knows where your phone is. They know who owns your phone. So if they see that you've spoken out or have done something bad or done something they don't like, they can just put a red QR code, lock you in your house, and take you to a quarantine camp.
And did you
and
hear
say
what
that you have COVID or whatever?
Yeah, and did you hear what they were also doing? There's a feature on anyone who has an Apple phone. There's a feature called airdropping, right?
Yeah.
You know how to airdrop something?
Yeah.
You could airdrop a document. You could airdrop a picture. You could. Mm-hmm. So what they were doing, and this is where I get very mad at corporations, and I'm going to spin this into another story, Joe.
Okay.
I am very disgusted by Apple. The company Apple, yes, I know they actually make the phones in China, but China, the government told Apple to disable airdropping in China because of the protesters. I think that's a horrible thing to do for a company. A company should not comply with that. They should tell the Chinese government, sorry, we're not disabling the phone itself is a means of controlling the people, like you just said.
True, exactly.
You can stop them from going places. You can stop them from doing things. They could stop their payments, I'm sure. Their ability to bank if they wanted to.
I do think that you do make a good point, but I think the problem with Apple specifically taking any action is that they're very reliant on China. They have they have like a near monopoly on rare earth minerals that Apple needs to make their phones. So if they say like, no, we're not going to do this, then China can just say, okay, you don't have your minerals anymore.
I know.
It's a very tough situation.
I understand that. And that is how, but there is collusion and inner workings between governments and companies, and I don't like that.
That is true, because a lot of the Chinese, even American investors, a lot of them invested billions of dollars into the CCP, especially way back in the night, the Tiananmen Square protests. People continue to invest in the country, saying, "Oh, well, it'll liberalize." They will.
It went worse. It got worse.
It made it worse because now they have all this money to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, and now we lost our family rating. Just kidding.
No, we don't have that anymore.
It's okay.
But no, we don't have that anymore.
Okay.
But
it's okay. I was just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but
Joe's making a good point here. I mean, when you Joe, you threw me off with the curse. I don't, Joe. Just so the audience knows, Joe, I hardly ever hear Joe curse. So when he does, I don't even get upset. I more laugh. I go, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" He's got some passion today. But he's exactly right. The thing that I think everyone in America needs to understand, okay, is that we have to be very careful as our own society not to fall into that type of, don't give government that much control over your life. Don't give government your control over your phone. Don't give government too much control because they could do the same thing to us. Just because it's happening there doesn't mean it can't happen here. And I know some people, oh, you're an alarmist. No, I'm not, because it's happening in this world. And
it is.
And they're, and it leads me to what I wanted to talk about, Joe, is have you heard of, that Twitter was just purchased, right?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And it got purchased by who?
Elon.
Right, Elon Musk. And do you know what he just recently did this weekend?
I heard he did something about Hunter, but that's it.
Yes. And all right, Joe. So now the reason why I'm asking Joe this is because you know what, Joe is very much in tune with what's going on in the world, right? I would say you are. You're pretty much in tune.
But I don't really go too deep into politics. But I do know that he did something with Hunter.
Well, this is not so much politics. This is more government control. Mm-hmm. Okay, and here is what we learned. Now, Elon Musk buys Twitter, right?
Yeah, he bought it.
He buys Twitter, and he has all the information, right? Mm-hmm. And he wanted to free the people that have been locked out of their accounts for non-violent things, for speaking certain minds. Now, back in 2020, now we're going to reverse back a little bit to October of 2020, right?
Yeah,
the New York Post does an article saying
about
that
the Hunter Biden situation.
Hunter Biden,
I did know
who is the president's son, his laptop was left at a computer store, and it had a lot of shady things on it. And I don't want to get into all the shady, but it was shady. It was, some things were business shadiness. Some things were very disgusting that he had on there. So anyway, now, during an election where it was very, very close, New York Post puts the article on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. Twitter shuts it down.
Yeah, I do
right?
remember that.
You do remember that, right?
Yes, so I do. That was the whole thing.
Now, we were told that, now, when Twitter shuts it down, all the major news networks said it's fake. It's fake. It's not real. And they didn't even report it. So they were silent about it. So only people that were really following politics knew about this laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ABC, NBC, CBS, they barely talked about it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they even made anyone who was talking about it seem like they were crazy, and they were calling, and the government called it misinformation, and they had 50 top officials saying it was misinformation. So that's the groundwork of what happened there. Okay,
Yeah,
Joe?
that was way back 2 years ago.
That was way back 2 years ago. So now, fast forward to now, Elon Musk buys Twitter. He goes through their internal records, and he now, last Friday night, he started to release specifics of how they stopped that story from getting out. Now, we have our First Amendment right, Joe? What is that?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, right. Now,
And also
so
freedom
now,
of the press and everything else.
Now, a company
Yeah.
does not have to follow a freedom of speech rule.
No.
Right? But a government must, correct?
Exactly, yes.
So when this happened in 2020, the argument by Twitter was, hey, we're a company. We can stop anything we want to.
Yeah.
Right? So that was what they were saying.
Exactly.
Now, what had been discovered by Elon Musk and what he's starting to publish is that the Biden campaign was telling Twitter who to delete off of their site. And Twitter was doing it. So anytime someone would post a story, the Biden administration was... The Biden... Not they weren't an administration yet, but the Biden campaign and the Democrat committee were sending Twitter messages, and they were deleting all the things. Now, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, was also rooting for Biden because they told Twitter, look out, there may be a story coming out and it's going to be fake. You know how they did that?
Wow.
They were spying on Rudy Giuliani, who had the laptop beforehand. So now think of it this way. If you're spying on somebody, right?
Yeah.
Then you get ahead of them, right? You know what they're going to... So, like, you got to think, presidential elections are so hotly contested, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's looking to tear down the other side, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
They knew what Giuliani was going to use and say, look, we got all this information, so they got ahead of it. So they told Twitter, hey, look, Russians are going to be making up a story about Hunter's laptop, right? So when the laptop story came out, Twitter just shut it down. Now, with the laptop, and I hope I'm not being too confusing to the listening audience, FBI had a copy of it in 2019. They had a copy of the laptop. So so the certain levels of the FBI were actually lying to Twitter, and making the story go away. Now, this is where I was talking about governments and companies doing bad things, because quite honestly, listen, there's corruption on both sides, but if you're suppressing one side's corruption, how do people know who they should vote for?
Yeah, that's true. It's weird because the rightist corruption is not too suppressed. Like, you can go find any story on the right.
Any story on the right's corruption, right?
Those do exist. They're not like, those aren't fake, right? Like,
of course
the rightist corruption, that's not fake. That's not, that's just being made up. No, those are totally real. But the thing is, no one really talks about the other side's corruption either. And also, I feel like there's a bit of a natural imbalance in, like, there's a lot of a natural imbalance in reporting as well. Like, the rightists are more commonly labeled as misinformation, though the left can be as well.
It's so interesting you say that, Joe, because here's what happened over the weekend, okay? Now, so the story comes out that the Democrat National Committee stopped Twitter from posting things. Stopped Twitter, told Twitter, and Twitter started shutting down accounts, right?
That comes
now, so this story should have been about, hey, wait, there's a whole one side of the government that's stopping Twitter from putting things out, right? So now think about that. So the story this weekend, the legitimate news reporters should have been reporting on that. What were they reporting on? Now, I'll tell you what they were reporting on. Now, Donald Trump And let me tell you something. I don't care if I piss off half my audience by saying this. Trump, he constantly says stupid things and ruins the narrative. Now, the story should have been, hey, Twitter helped Biden win the election through the government officials.
Kind of, yeah.
That's a big story.
That is.
What does Trump say? They should overturn the Constitution, or said something along those lines. But he said something along the lines of, and he threw the word the Constitution in there, like basically saying the election should be null and void and everything should be back in power. So I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he said something along the lines of the Constitution. Now, I heard a story. Now, all weekend, all the reporters were going, Trump doesn't believe in the Constitution. Trump doesn't believe in the Constitution. But they didn't say why he got upset in the first place. Do you realize what the media does and how they spin things? Now, I'm driving in the car this morning. I listen to like pop music radio, or I can't remember what I was listening to, but it had the news came on.
Yeah, it does.
And the news came on, and they go, over the weekend, this is how they phrased it. Over the weekend, Donald Trump said that they should get rid of the Constitution and he should be president again because Twitter suppressed the laptop story. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
That's all they said. They literally just said that sentence.
Yep, pretty much that's it. Now, if someone who's listening to pop music or getting their family ready for school or driving their kids to school or whatever they're doing at 7:30 in the morning hears that, they don't know that the Democrat National Committee sent Twitter all these names of people that they should shut down, and Twitter did it because they wanted to help one side. All they said was Twitter shut down a story.
I don't know. I don't really know if... how am I going to say this? I don't know if Twitter wanted to help them out or if they were misled, because, like, the FBI seemed to just be lying out of their teeth. So, especially with the FBI going in and saying, like, oh, well, this is like a spy campaign or whatever, or this is like fake news, something like that. I think Twitter might have also, it's very possible that Twitter could have been misled on that they might have,
Yes, I see what you're saying there, Joe. Now, I encourage everyone in the audience, if they have a Twitter account, go to Elon Musk and go to Friday night. He doesn't tweet that much, but if you go into Friday night, you'll see the thread, and you could read it yourself. And it's what he does is he has someone write an article in Twitter snippets. So it's about 60 different snippets, but they're short. And he puts proof in there. He shows emails. So everyone could decide for themselves. But I encourage everyone to look at that because, I know Trump said something stupid over the weekend. What? It's just basically almost every day he does something to ruin. There's no man that can be given opportunities and say something stupid to ruin him like he can sometimes.
That is true.
I mean, I know I'm pissing off. I could probably piss off a lot of people by saying it because there's a lot of people that love him, a lot of people that hate him. I look at him and go, what are you doing? Just shut up about this. You can say, I'm pissed. They took the election from me and they kind of cheated or whatever. But you don't say you're going to even overturn the Constitution to do it. That's where you lose, right?
True.
Anyway,
Donald Trump just doesn't have
discipline.
filter.
He doesn't have discipline. He's got to be more disciplined with because you know what? Here's the thing: whether you like him or not, shouldn't we all want a fair election, Joe?
That's true. Yeah.
So he loses some common sense people that are like, wait, it should be fair. Because he says things like that, and it just drives me insane. Because here's the thing: I'm not a MAGA guy. What I am, I'm someone who wants freedoms. I'm someone who looks at China and gets scared about what happens there and prays to God that my kids don't have to live in a world like that. I don't want you to live in a world like that. I want you to live in a world that's free. You've been given this gift that you were born in America, and I want it to stay that way as far as freedoms go. And I'm a freedom person, and sometimes that makes the left mad. More of the times it makes the left mad, but it can even make the right a little mad because I'm for people's freedoms all the time. Yeah. So you may disagree with some of my stances, but you know what? That's what I'm basing my stance on.
I feel like the problem is companies are exempt from freedom of speech. That's nothing new. The thing is they've become so powerful that they essentially control speech.
Yes, they
making
do.
them act more like governments than companies themselves. It's not like if the New York Times posts something, it's now like they can restrict any speech that either they don't like or they don't agree with. But I don't really... The weird thing, though, is why restrict it? Like, from the company's standpoint, I don't know why they would restrict it. Like, for YouTube, maybe because they want to lean into, like, family-friendly branding. But, like, why would, like, you want to lose half your audience?
Because...
Like, why would you lose... Like, you have half the population towards... Like, vehemently towards one side. Why lose that when you could just stay out of it and profit off both sides?
I'm glad you said that. But here's what my theory is: because they are getting more powerful by siding with one side. I'm going to say it. It's true, because it's true. 90% of the media are the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. They are one and the same. So if your team mm-hmm. and you're in charge of getting out information about an issue, whatever issue it is, issue B, mm-hmm. letter B. Now, my side feels a certain way. So I'm not going to talk about what the other side feels that way, because that's my team. Think of it this way. They're all, let's just say it's the Giants versus the Jets in football, right? Now, the Giants are playing the Jets. Everyone in the media is a Giant fan. Are they going to talk anything good about the Jets?
Probably not.
That's what's happening, Joe. So, yes, but there's also collusion back and forth. When the government says, hey, don't run this story, and then the free press, who are supposed to be journalists, are not running it. That's a big problem. And here's where I have the biggest problem. When there's a Republican in the White House, like Trump, right? Yeah. They were very critical of him. And you know what, Joe? That's okay. You should be critical of your governmental leaders, right?
Yeah, like, that's nothing like... Oh, well, you should bow to your government leaders.
No, never bow to
government
leaders.
Them,
always be critical with them. And as soon as Biden comes in, they're not critical of him anymore. They're not critical of them. If you watch any press conference, the questions that he get are so easy. When are people going to start realizing that it's a joke? They are rooting for one side. But here's what happens when you root for one side. That side could do whatever they want. Government is corrupt. The parts of the left are corrupt, parts of the right are corrupt. You got to weed all that stuff out. It doesn't matter whose side it is. But if the media, my point is, if the media would do their job the way they're supposed to and be critical of everybody, mm-hmm. we'd be in a much better country.
I think a part of that is also the fear of people to speak against their side. Like, I feel like some of these journalists might want to do their job, but either are blocked because the company supports a specific stance, mm-hmm. or they essentially are fearful of government trying to suppress that information, or if they have certain documents the government doesn't want released, they might not want to release those documents because the government might go after them or try to...
Yeah, exactly. Fear. And, but that's a sad state of reality. And quite honestly, look, I will criticize... Listen, I am center-right. Mm-hmm. I am center-right. But I'm telling you right now, I'll criticize everyone on the right if they need it. Because what I want basically is I want freedoms. And I want a good, honest society. And I will complain about people on the right just as much as I'll complain about the people on the left. I just want the media to do the same. I don't think it's too much to ask, right?
Not really.
So we wrapped up that long segment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it went a little long, but you want to do something more fun, right, Joe?
Yeah.
You want to finish the podcast a little more fun, right?
Yeah.
And we're even going to roll into our IRL, I guess, all live in one shot.
Woo!
This is our first ever episode that we're not doing in segments.
Yeah.
How you feeling? You exhausted?
Not too tired. But
right. Well, Joe loves the Would You Rather game, right?
Yep.
It's one of your faves.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it too. So how we play the Would You Rather game, if this is the first time you're listening, is that I pick and I give Joe a question.
Yeah.
And Joe ponders it, and I try to guess what he would rather do.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually do 3, so we'll do 3 again, okay?
Oh, so we only have like 10 minutes left.
All right, we'll wrap it up in 10.
Okay.
All right, we're running out of time. We got a commercial break, Joe? We don't have sponsors yet. All right, so we have 10 minutes. I think we do this in 10 minutes, Joe.
Okay.
All right. Joe, would
Yes.
you rather have a time machine or a teleporter? So, now think about that. Time machine, you can go back in time, you can go forward in time. Teleporting, like, you can be in a car and go, I don't really feel sit in traffic. I'll just get to the game. Boom, you get to the game. So you can move within the same time frame in a split second or have a time machine. Tell me when you got it locked in.
Okay, I've got mine locked.
All right. I'm going to guess that Joe would rather have a time machine.
You're wrong.
Oh, okay.
I'd rather have a teleporter.
What? Now tell me why.
Well, first of all, I feel like traveling through time would be dangerous because you could wreck something in the past and have it, like, forever changed. And 2, I feel like I'd want to go anywhere in the world at any time. Like, I could teleport myself to, like, Paris if I wanted to, just because I feel like going to Paris, and, like, I don't even have to buy a plane ticket, so...
Joe, that is really, you know what, now that I think about it, you almost sold me on teleporting. I thought about it and go, wow, I'd rather have a time machine, go back in time, go forward in time, that'd be awesome. But now I'm like, all right, you could screw up the past or screw up the future, right?
Yeah.
And teleporting, you're right. I could just blink and go to Hawaii. Yeah, I would love to do that. Wow. All right, second question. I'm 0 for 1 now. Would you rather listen to an annoying laugh for the whole day or get tickled for 1 hour? So I'm not going to do an annoying laugh, but we all know people who have annoying laughs. I probably have one, right?
I think I've got mine locked.
All right. So I think Joe would rather listen to an annoying laugh than to be tickled for an hour.
Actually, all right.
Yes. And I do know that.
I never want to be tickled, ever. I'd rather just listen to the laugh. At least it's only for one day.
Yes, you can get through a whole day doing that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I am 1 for 1. So this is the game breaker, okay?
Okay.
All right. Ooh. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find a really good one that I'm going to be challenged on. Yeah, Joe. There you go, Joe. We do. We need sound effects.
Yeah. I'm going to put those in there.
Okay. Okay. I'm still trying to find a good one, Joe. I'm sorry. We're running out of time.
Yep.
Okay. This is a funny one, Joe.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Would you rather get your wisdom teeth pulled or your butt cheeks pierced?
Tell
me when you're ready.
I think I'm ready.
Joe's got the answer pretty fast. Wisdom teeth pulled or butt cheeks pierced?
That's a funny one.
Okay. I think you'd rather have your wisdom teeth pulled.
Probably. Yes.
All right, I won. I'm 2-1. Joe, tell me why you didn't want to have your butt cheek pierced.
A, that sounds painful. B, I feel like I just have holes in my butt.
Oh my god. And you know what's funny? I'm thinking about that going, okay, butt cheeks being pierced, that's the gift that keeps on giving, because every time you sit, you gotta feel it, right?
Yeah.
At least the teeth will get better in a few days. I mean, I've had
That's
wisdom teeth pulled. It hurts for a week or something like that. But what are you gonna do with a butt cheek?
Also, I feel like you'd probably bleed out.
Oh my god! I think eventually you would stop bleeding, but oh my goodness! All right, so we are a few minutes left. We're gonna start our IRL segment, right?
Yep, we are.
So we're gonna do this again without a breakup. I put the radio on. Sorry, gotta turn off the radio in the car.
Yep.
In our long, continuous podcast that we have not done in a few months, Joe. All right, we're back in business. How do you feel?
been feeling pretty a little bit like things that are kind of going on, like things are changing. I feel like I'm at like a bit of a crossroads, I guess. Crossroads over multiple things: careers, colleges, jobs, all that stuff. I'm at like a crossing point where things can go in many different directions, and that's I kind of feel like it's a bit divided on where to go and which directions to go on some of those paths. Some of them I have figured out, but then others, like, I just don't really know, and I'm not entirely sure. But some of them I do, like, I have, like, careers, I have, like, two in mind, broadcaster or doctor, and pretty different careers, but those are the ones that I have in mind.
I think you'd be an amazing doctor. And what you could do is, how about you be a doctor that ends up being a news correspondent? So not only you're a doctor, you get to go on and be part of a broadcast.
Possibly, yeah. I could probably do that. I'm also thinking of the only, what was I going to say? I'm also thinking of, like, driving, like, how I'm gonna drive and all that stuff. Like,
I know you took your permit test, and and we're gonna, I know we're gonna have to see how the driving goes. And I know, thankfully, there's on the horizon are self-driving vehicles. I know the Tesla has one. And that they're still working out all the kinks, but, I think that's something that may be a little bit of a challenge, but I think you could overcome it. Joe, you've overcome so many challenges in your life before. I think you could do this one too.
Yeah.
It's a matter of focusing. It's a matter of staying your eyes on the road. They're going to teach you how to do it. It's a matter of getting your feet coordinated with your hands.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a difficult challenge, but I think you could do it.
Yeah.
Joe's got a lot of things going on. I mean, being 16 and now you're going to be starting to think about where exactly, like you said, where you're going to go and what you want to do and what job you may want to grab. But hey, look, I'm glad we're doing this. And Joe, you pretty much said you wanted to do this. We've been talking. Joe and I have been saying, hey, do you want to do the podcast anymore? You're kind of dying out on it. And I'm glad you're back.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're back.
We're back.
It's always fun.
That's about it for today.
And if you like it, put a comment down, share it with people if you really enjoyed this podcast, because the more people that listen, the better. Right, Joe?
Yeah. I don't know when we're going to do one again, hopefully in the next 1 to 2 weeks, but we'll keep you posted.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.